Grace and peace to you from Grace Church on the Hill in Toronto. I'm wondering how you're all doing these days. It's been over 3 months now that we've been through this anomalous period of a global pandemic, and it's been a big upheaval in everyone's life. Here at Grace Church, it's completely reordered and restructured life. Normally we would meet in worship here every Sunday with a large community of faith, and now we're distanced from one another. So it's very different. So what we decided to do was interview a few of our parishioners and simply ask them how it's going. What's been your experience throughout this lockdown period? And how has this impacted your faith? I mean, here we are, we support one another normally, we gather around the Eucharist, we know one another interpersonally in a very close and supportive way, and now that's taken away. It's a very different experience of being a Christian, simply worshiping virtually. So I'm very pleased that one of our churchwardens, Chris Bunting, is here with me today, and I'm going to ask Chris what his experience has been in the last few months. Life's certainly been different.
Morning, Peter. Yeah, it has most certainly been different. Like everybody, we've found ourselves over the last 3 months in different degrees of isolation and bubbling, but adjusting to new routines quite quickly. And I think talking with friends and family that many people have found that they're moving into new routines and just doing things a bit differently, but missing terribly our normal quote lives.
The structure
of the day and the community and seeing people and all of the things that kids, grandkids, all those things that you take for granted otherwise. In my own case, my situation was complicated a bit because just before the crackdown, the lockdown, I had a medical diagnosis, which meant that I was going to need some treatments through March and April, and then heading for a bit of surgery at the end of this month. And so that put another layer on for me, that I was exposed to the frontline workers that we've all been being so grateful for going to see medical people for treatments, etc. And just so grateful for what they do every day. So grateful that in spite of the hugely complicated situation that our society is in, that fundamental things continue to operate with care, with grace, with
courage too,
and with huge courage.
Yeah.
So I've found that an interesting perspective, and sometimes daunting, because you go to places that are normally bustling with people and medical centers, and there's nobody.
Yeah.
Screening to get in, and everything is very, very antiseptic, and it's being done the way it should be done in this environment.
So you're getting a lot of direct personal attention, but from behind a mask?
From behind a mask and a plexiglass face guard, but on the upside of all that, appointments are extremely quick.
Oh yes.
They have you in and out, and
right.
So there's been that which has heightened my awareness of the threat of the coronavirus,
of course,
and the importance of taking the right steps to mitigate those threats, but also just observing how people are operating within that environment, and for the most part, it's just I've been so impressed.
Wonderful.
And just how people have responded.
What about your own habits? I mean, I guess you try and do exercise and
try and exercise, try go out every day to go for good power walks, and we've done some of that together. Also in the day-to-day course of business, I mean, like everybody else, tons of, what did we do without Zoom before? Tons of Zoom calls for business, but also with family.
And that can be fatiguing.
It can be fatiguing.
Our wardens meetings are now by Zoom.
So you're never really quite together, but
right.
I guess we're trying to simulate the next best thing.
Right.
A nice byproduct has been having not reconnected, but certainly established a connection with old friends from high school, who we now Zoom every 10 days or so, this little group, and that's been something that otherwise probably wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. So there's silver linings in this.
Yeah, some silver linings.
Some silver linings.
Yeah.
So picking up new hobbies, or just watching too much Netflix, or
Done a lot of that too.
yeah,
Done a lot of that too.
But you must have some. We all have some quiet times too,
Yeah.
solitude and time for reflection. Actually, in many ways, we can be less distracted
Yes.
than perhaps we were 4 months ago.
I think so. I think so. And this is where faith comes into play too. And I think faith is a very individual thing, and it certainly is for me. Faith is something that's always with you. And I think going through a time like this, your dialogue with God, your relationship with God, it's always there. So that conversation, that dialogue goes on, but in a different way too. I think, at least that's been my experience, and in that looking for in my own faith, which has helped me in striving to do the best you can every day, recognizing that there are challenges every day, but having the courage, the optimism, the hope to just do your level best every day, and having the faith to support that. And knowing that
the
you're
assumption that there are others in that faith journey around you who are walking with you, and as you recover from your surgery,
critically
will be there, and
critically important. And you know that you're not going through any of this, whether it's just the threat of the virus or something on top of that. You're not going through that alone.
Right.
God is with you in that sense, but you've also got this community that's with you, which is
God is with you through
the
others.
community, hugely, and support of clergy, support of friends and colleagues and family, all of whom are part of that community. So it's a web, isn't it? It really is, and it's not simple. It's a complex web, but it's a
fragile web,
and it's a fragile web, but it's a very, very important web.
This time lays bare a lot of things for people.
Yes.
What they value most,
yes.
What is important, what isn't really important, what they thought was important, and maybe not so important. And I think all of us are asking ourselves these questions these days, because we have this sort of space. And, when we ask you to be a warden, life is going along, sailing just fine. The ship of grace was going through calm waters. And
yes.
then, in the last 3 months as a church warden, we've been contending with the whole shutdown and lockdown of our beloved church, and how best to serve the community. You didn't know you were signing up for this.
Had no idea. And these are really, those are fundamental issues in and of themselves.
Yeah.
But then now we're moving into a stage of what next? And what is this going to look like, and what is our church going to look like within the societal context when we start to move out of this?
That's
and
right.
what does that mean, moving out of it? So there's
we may have to reinvent the local church in a new way. I mean, and there's both opportunity in that, and obviously loss and grief of the familiar and the comfortable. It's a challenging time for our faith as church leaders and as Anglicans in this.
It's a hugely challenging time, but I hope we can turn it into an optimistic time as well. I hope we can use it.
Yeah.
As somebody very wise once said, never waste a crisis.
Let's remember that as Churchwarden.
Yes. And that I hope we can come up with something that's going to maybe meet the needs of future generations and not just sustain us, but really enrich and help us grow.
Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us this morning.
Thank you, Peter.
And just on behalf of all of us at Grace Church, I want to thank you for all your work and effort and gifts you bring as a church warden, and particularly in these turbulent times. And please be assured of our love and prayers for you as you go through this surgery. And then on your recovery.
I love doing it. I look forward to getting back.
All right, we'll be with you.
Thank you.
Grace and peace to Chris Bunting and to all the blessed people of God. Thank you.